Awesome. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Ignite. My name is Karina, and today I'm with my longtime mentor in music and inspiration, Samara Bortz. Hi, Samara. How are you doing today?
Hi. Oh my goodness, that's just the sweetest introduction.
Thank you.
Aw,
It's
I'm
been so long.
good. I'm
Hmm.
just so happy to see you because it's been such a long time that this is just a really nice thing to get to see your face.
You too. I missed you. So how have you all been doing with like the program and with your three choir assembles?
Yeah, it's been a really huge adjustment. Obviously, like the big thing with choral singing is that you get to do it with a room full of people. So what does that even look like when you can't stand near people? It's been a crazy change. Trying to figure out the best way to get through the rest of the season, which sort of wraps up when the school year wraps up in June. So since March or April, we've been doing online rehearsals where each of our we have six choirs now. Each of our six groups is meeting
Oh,
over
okay.
Zoom, like youth choir, Andrew's group that I sing in, even the little kids, like the 5, 6, and 7 year olds,
Oh,
um, which has been an adventure with them. So we've sort of been doing um, the best that we can through Zoom, through like some sing-alongs and working on like music theory and vocal technique, and really just trying to like provide something positive for everybody, because I think that like it's pretty universal that everyone's just like having a hard time right now. And it's been really nice to hear that a lot of our singers have been just like happy to have a little bit of music still in their week, and the chance to still see their friends from choir and a chance to like catch up and spend time together. So definitely not getting used to the whole life through a screen thing,
yeah.
but we're doing what we can.
And while I was in your choir, I felt like the energy of like music and how incredible it is to like bring people together. And I've known a little bit about like you studied at UBC and I've known a little bit of your career, but like when did you first discover your passion for music?
Yeah, good question. I guess we've never really talked about that. Um, I mean, it sounds like maybe kind of ridiculous, but like I think I first like really fell in love with music and singing with others when I was like 5 years old, like kindergarten music class. I was lucky enough, and I think a lot of musicians would say the same thing. Like people that have turned their career into a music career, it was all just from having a really influential teacher, Sarona, who you know, of course, because you sang
Mhm.
with her too before you sang with me. And like she was my elementary school music teacher, and I still remember like it's probably like some of my clearest childhood memories are like music class in kindergarten, and just like that feeling of how awesome it is to sing with others. So that was like when the passion started when I was a kid. Um, I think that didn't really plan to make it a career until like I was much older, more like high school age. That sort of crossed my mind. But yeah, I think I learned from a really young age that music was sort of more than just like singing and performing. It's also about the sort of connections that you get to make with people, and how meaningful that is to be able to just share that experience of making music. So yeah, to answer your question, it started really young.
And so you said you didn't know until like high school. Was there like a moment or a time where you just knew like you wanted to teach this?
Yeah, well, I didn't at all think I was going to teach. Actually, I was planning on I was planning on studying performance, like going into like being a classical singer or an opera singer
Mhm.
actually. And yeah, that sort of started in high school. Like I was taking voice lessons, and so I actually did my undergraduate degree in voice performance in not in at a school on the east coast of Canada called Mount Allison. So I lived in New Brunswick for 4 years, when I was like not much older than you, like sort of 18 to 21, and I studied voice there. Um, and sort of learned in my like second or third year how much I didn't love that and how much performance anxiety I had. Like it really stressed me out to like have to sing on my own, which is like, maybe I should have like figured this out a little bit earlier, but no, had to go through the motions. Um, and what I did discover is that I really loved sort of the more academic side of music there. Like I did really well in music theory and music history, and those were the classes I was really enjoying, and I got to do some sort of research projects then. And by the time I graduated in my fourth year, I had been, I decided to pursue a graduate degree, so a master's in musicology, which is like music history and theory. So again, like totally different path from performance. Um, but that's what I wanted to do. So I applied to a bunch of schools, and I picked UBC, and I moved back home, and I started that program, that 2-year degree. And the first thing I did was find a choir when I came back to UBC, because that was like always my home. And I fell in love with the UBC choral program. Like I had so much fun singing in it. And I had this friend when I was there who was in he was studying conducting in the master's program. And I was like, man, like that looks like so much fun. And he was like, yeah, you could do this. Because I was doing like a lot of teaching on the side, like lessons, and I worked at like a musical theater school for kids, and I was loving teaching, and I was not feeling my heart fulfilled by the reading and writing of the musicology degree I was doing. So again, it was like, man, I just like really have to pay attention to what my heart wants and what is really like exciting to me. And it had never occurred to me that I could have a career in the thing that I loved the most that was like consistent from the time I was 5, the time I was your age, the time I was in university, which was singing in choir. Like, why did I never think of that? But it took that much time. So I finished my musicology master's, and I applied for the choral conducting grad program, and got accepted and started that journey. And that was, shortly after Andrew and I started dating, and shortly after Serona moved to the Sunshine Coast and asked if I would take over her women's choir. And it all sort of built from there. So that was a really long answer to your question of when did I sort of know I wanted to turn this into a career? Well, it took so many turns, and like it sort of just unfolded by like paying attention to what I really love and what I had a passion for. And each step along the way was definitely useful, but it wasn't like a clear path for sure. It definitely took its time.
No, I love that. Like, I love that you have like this passion, but of course, there's so many different ways to approach a passion, right? And there's so much to discover. And you've had this really long journey. I'm sure like the journey is still going, and you're still learning a lot of new things and seeing all these wonderful things that you and Andrew are both doing. So I have a question, like, why is music a powerful way to express, yourself?
Yeah. Well, that's such a good question. I think like any form of art, which I think is so important. Like I think art is just so important. It helps you to really go inwards and start and be reflective, and we don't often, or at least I don't often, kind of take the time to do that intentionally. But music is sort of an outlet for that lets you sort of connect to what you're feeling and what you have a passion for and what you enjoy, and sort of get to that honest place. So I think that's one way that it's really powerful, is it leaves room for that sort of introspection and reflection. And the other thing that I think is cool is it offers something for everyone, like even if you don't love to perform, like everyone can find some form of music they like to listen to and connect to. So even if you're just, hearing a song that, the words like are really speaking true to you on that day, like that's a form of expression, that's a form of connection. So that's another way. And then the last thing is I think it's really cool how it has the power to bring people together. You know, how making music can be a form of expression that's really individual and introspective, but also can be a way to really, you know, connect with people who have similar interests to you or who are totally different than you. And you know, you might not ever spend time with outside of choir or outside of band or whatever, but that's one of the things I love about youth choirs. It's like this whole community of young people who are totally different, and I'm sure many of them would never talk to each other out like at school or outside of choir, but then they come into this room and they sing together, and there's that mutual respect and that mutual love for one another, and that like working towards a common goal. So yeah, I think it's just a powerful way to really, you know, to do both, to connect to some of the quieter and more inward parts of yourself, but also to look outward and connect to others.
That's really wonderful. Thank you, Samara. Yeah, and I resonate so much with that, like not just being with you and in your choirs, just with any kind of form of art, right? Like through dance or music, singing or literal painting. Like it's that transformative feeling that's you're no longer just in this body, you're connecting with either like a bigger idea or just with other people, and it's such a wonderful feeling. Yeah. I don't think you can find that anywhere else.
I don't think so.
And with this, like with this feeling, how can everyone, like ordinary people, like how can everybody interpret music into their lives then?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I really believe music's for everyone, and I believe everyone can make music,
Mm-hmm.
but not everyone at least feels that way, like feels confident that way inside. So I think the easiest way is by just like start listening, start paying attention to what you like to listen to, what explore new types of music, listen to something you haven't before. I would say to not sort of pay attention to whatever limiting beliefs you might have. Like you wouldn't believe the number of people who, especially adults, like less your age, but more like ladies in the women's choir who are in their 40s or 50s or 60s, and they'll say like, oh, I can't join choir because I had a music teacher, like an elementary music teacher, who told me to mouth the words in school, you know, because they didn't think I had a good voice, or because I couldn't match pitch at that age. And I just think so many people have those like little fears, you know, or big fears, like around
Mm-hmm.
being vulnerable and around making music, because it is a vulnerable thing. So um I think that regardless of how like good enough or talented you think you are, there's something for you. You can pick up that instrument, you can sing in your shower, you can listen and sing along, you can, you know, come to a choir, and you can be a part of something, you know, where as a conductor I really think that every voice matters, you know, where it's not about like the best singers in the group, but sort of the strength that all the different voices make and contribute. So add music to your life by just doing it, and finding that little bit of confidence, and you know, pushing those sort of doubting voices aside, which is easier said than done. I get that, but I think it's well worth it because of, you know, like we were just talking about, that sort of transformative feeling and that sort of relaxation and calm that comes from expressing yourself, and music is a form of expression. So
Yeah. Love that. I know. I've like seen so many people, especially when it's like trying new things that they think they have to be talented at in order to try it, you know? Like it's just an art form, right? It's just an expression. There is not really like levels of professionalism you have to go through in order to achieve the same feelings, and it's just like it's completely you, and yeah, I
yeah,
love it. Mhm.
yeah, there's no good or bad really.
Mm.
Yeah, you can work towards certain goals, or you know, you can strive to improve skills, but really like your voice or your instrument, like that's you, that's where you're at. And yeah, like you said, it's not like you're not trying to climb up some ladder to reach some gold medal of success. You should just make music because it makes you happy.
how do you think we can like use music as a tool to connect with other people even when we're apart?
Hmm. That's a hard one.
Yeah.
That's a hard one, but an important one. Yeah, it's been really interesting to see sort of all the creative ways that people are, you know, making the most of the situation. And I think really like no better time. Well, maybe you have the time to jump headfirst into trying something new, making music. Um, as for connecting with one another, like thank goodness we're kind of in like this social media connected age. I think because to me it's really inspiring to see you, for example, you played that song of with your ukulele. Is that what it?
Yeah.
I think even just little moments like that where um, you can sort of share with others just by putting out there what you've been doing and what you've been working on.
And you are teaching with Andrew like virtual lessons. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah. So we've um we've had a studio of private students for a couple years now, but it's always been in person. So like people will come to our house for guitar lessons and piano lessons and voice lessons. So now we've moved all of that online. So through Zoom, we're doing all of those, and it works a lot better than what we were talking about earlier. Like if it's just one on one, then the sort of timing and there's not as much like latency, and it works quite well. So yeah, we've been teaching our regular students and have been, you know, working hard to sort of get more students because we you know could use the the work in this time. We've sort of lost some work just because of all of this things that we were supposed to do this spring we weren't able to do, which has been unfortunate. But anyway, so we've got some new students, and what's been really cool is we have like students in Kelowna and in Idaho, like where Andrew's from, people who like didn't know of us before or did but like couldn't come to our house weekly for lessons, but now they can, and we can teach them even if they live in another country. So that's been one of the kind of cool things that's come out of this.
That's so cool. Yeah. Okay, now for the hardest question probably. What is your favorite piece of music and why?
Oh, that
Song.
is
I know, I'll give you some time.
oh man, my favorite. I You didn't ask me. I don't know. Put me on the spot.
Stars. Any
Um, hmm. Well, my real like choir director answer would be the Brahms Requiem, which is like this beautiful choral piece of music. My like musical theater kid side of me would say something from The Sound of Music, because that was just my favorite movie of all time. And yeah, or just like whatever I'm singing.
That's perfect. Yeah.
I just miss that so much right now. That is a tough
Okay.
question.
There's too many to choose. I know. I never can actually pinpoint just one. There's so many good ones. Okay. Thank you so much, Samara, for this wonderful time and for talking to me and for sharing me like all your passions and your energy. And I'm so grateful to like have you as a mentor in my life, as like in music and leadership and everything. Yeah, and I really, it's so wonderful to see like you're still sharing this, love for music despite all these circumstances. And I hope that everyone who sees this can like understand the power of having that expression in your life, right? Rather, just doesn't have to be music. It can be any kind of like cooking, your art, your speaking. Having that in our life is so important in this time right now. So thank you so much for this today. And yeah, thank you so much.
You're welcome, Karina. I think you're amazing, and I'm really proud of you for doing this. This is so wonderful. So thank you for having me and for chatting.